Welcome to episode 13 of the Warrior Pulse. I am your host, Trey Heath. Today I am honored to have Dr. Joanne Muniz, accounting professor here at Weber. We're going to get into some stuff about accounting, education, soccer, and having children who are college age. So welcome. Happy the 1st of February. Let's get this semester rolling. Dr. Muniz, thank you so much for joining us. Understand you've been in accounting for 30 years. How does one get involved in accounting?
Gosh, I hate that you just dated me, but yeah, I've been in accounting for 30 years. So back when I went to school, you either liked it or you don't, and that's really what you find with accounting people. I've had some students that say, I kind of like accounting, great, then go with it. Because it is somewhat numbers, and a lot of people don't necessarily like them. But it was something that I enjoyed that came natural to me. And when I was in high school, I actually was involved with FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, and I wound up going to a conference at my alma mater and fell in love with the school and fell in love with the program and decided that's what I wanted to do.
Not only does Dr. Muniz have her undergraduate degree from Elizabethtown College in Pennsylvania, go Blue Jays.
Yes.
She also has her master's in science and accounting and her doctorate of business administration with a concentration in advanced accounting. What made you feel that those degrees, obviously being undergraduate, what made you go to Elizabethtown, for one? And then second, what was the desire to get the master's and the doctorate?
So when I was deciding on where I wanted to go, of course, I was a first-generation college student, so my parents didn't want me to go far. I really wanted to go to Johnson & Wales up in Rhode Island. I wanted to be, you would probably remember the TV show Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Josh Brolin. Yeah. That's what I wanted to be. He was the manager of an hotel, and it was just wonderful because all these stars came in and everything. And I wanted to do that. My parents didn't want me to go away. So, again, going back to FBLA, I went to Elizabethtown. And it's a small, quaint, kind of like Weber, double the size. We had 1,300 students back then, so double the size of Weber. And it was small and quaint, and it was far enough away, yet close enough away to my parents. So I get our students who are like that, whose parents don't want them to go. And went for my undergrad, and that served me well for quite a number of years. I actually went back for my master's not that long ago. Only 7 years ago now.
Okay. So
I was an older student, right? I was an adult learner. I was also an online student, which was something entirely different from when I was an undergrad. I always tell my students in class we didn't have computers. We didn't have cell phones. So it was different, and I was an online learner. And funny thing is, when I was a senior in high school, one of my favoriteest teachers in the world, Mr. Hammer, said, "You're going to be a college professor one day." And that wasn't something that I had in my mind, but it was something that came back as an older learner. And after going to through my master's, I was going to take some time off, and my husband said, "Why don't you go become a doctor in accounting and give back some of the knowledge that you have," which is how I wound up coming into academia, because I realized that my wonderful career, which was very storied, if you look at it on paper, it's like, where has she been and what has she done? It came to be very beneficial for me in academia to be able to give back to students and help pave a way for them, because I didn't know what I was doing as a senior in college or high school, of what I was going to do or where it was going to lead me. And my fortunate career path has given me a lot of knowledge to be able to give back.
Well, you just hit a gazillion points that I want to cover, so we're going to handle one first. She had the idea that she wanted to be in the hotel world, which, for those of you who don't know, they're new to Weber. Weber used to be a hotel, motel, hospitality management school. So shout out to all those that have their hotel, motel degree from Weber. That was a big thing here back in the day. Also, she talked about her storied career. She's worked for major public accounting firms and also internal audit. She's worked for public and privately held companies and not-for-profits. So Her and her husband also own a roofing company, which I'm sure you do the accounting for. So since we don't need to go outside for that, she's a certified fraud examiner. And as I stated, she has her master's and doctorate. So when she talks about storied career, so many times we get professors that profess. We don't get always the professor that has worked in the field. So I think that's something that needs to be touted, that you come from the professional background. And you talked about not knowing what you want. How do you guide a student that, because so many of them have these Pollyannic ideas of what they want to do when they come to college, how do you get them to solidify those, especially in the accounting world, or turn them away from accounting?
Yeah, and that's actually happened already. And I can say that turning someone away is sometimes a good thing for them. In my undergrad, I was actually going to change majors. I was going to go into economics. I loved economics. And my economics professor talked me out of it by asking me, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Where do you want to work? And back then, the only place to work was Washington, D.C. And I didn't want to get into that world. I didn't want to get into the politicking and work in Washington. So I wound up staying in accounting. But college is where you get to explore and decide what it is that you want to do. And there are so many opportunities out there. When I was an undergrad, you had two ways to go, either in public accounting or private accounting. That was it. Now there are so many opportunities that our students have. So being able to give them the connections and give them the experiences here, whether it is in accounting or not. Of course, I get exciting when someone tells me they want to be in accounting, just because there are so many opportunities. I was just talking to my students the other day about it, and we were talking about the FBI, and I was like, what's the number one major the FBI hires from? And they all look at me, I'm like, accounting. And people don't realize that there are all these opportunities. So by being able to just be an open source for them, of knowing that my door's always open for them, that they can come in at any time to talk and to explore what it is maybe that interests them, because there's a big difference between having a profession and having a career, and of course doing something that you love.
I love the fact that you talked about college is the time for exploration. My brother, who's about 19 years younger than me, he actually came to Weber to do sport management. And as he started taking the sport management classes, he realized how much he enjoyed the marketing side. So he changed and became a marketing major, and that has served him well over the years. Still loves the sports side, but that passion for marketing, and I think many college students would be well served. You also stated it's a time to try things. There's nothing wrong with learning what you don't like by going to do those work opportunities, the seminars. Those you kind of figure out what you do. You seem to be such an open book to students. Do you get more joy from the classroom side, or do you get more joy from the mentoring side?
That's a tough question. Because...
Well, good.
Yeah, it really is. Because right now in the world, everyone's going, online. And I think the personal connection is so very important. You don't realize it. I had COVID back in November. I had COVID. And I think I put this on Facebook somewhere. There's a very big difference between not wanting to see someone and not being able to see someone. And coming here, and for us being able to, in all of our craziness and the way that COVID has restricted us and what we can or cannot do, we have a very huge opportunity to be able to make these connections with the students. And no one wants to come back on January 4th after Christmas break, except for when you walk through the door and you're like, yep, here I am, I'm back, I see the kids. Or they come and they ask you a question, or I just walked through the gymnasium and I was, hey, that's exciting. It's also exciting when you're walking through the hallway and someone says, they throw a word at you because they remember something that you said. So it's a tie. It's really hard to say between one or the other. Making those personal connections, and at Weber, having all students from all over the world. I tell my students it's incredible. I've been in Spain and I've reached out to a student that I knew was from Spain and said, hey, I'm going to be in Barcelona tomorrow. Can you stop and have coffee with me? Where can you get those experiences? So I don't think our students know that yet, the relationships that they're going to build over their college education. But it is just a very unique place with a lot of experiences that they can explore.
As you were talking about walking through the gym on the way to our palatial studio that Joyce has created for us, you talked about how the students reach out to you. Do you feel that's a benefit to the small college environment? And do you enjoy that small college environment over the maybe research side of a large school, or having a student assistant and just being more of a name versus an actual professor and life-changing person?
So I have an older son who goes to UF. He's in their pre-med program. And when he decided that he wanted to go to UF, I was really nervous, right? Because Elizabethtown is a small college, it's a small town, it's a small everything. Weber is a small town, it's a small college, it's a small everything. So I was a little bit nervous as the mom of him going to a place that has, 50,000 plus people. I see the difference in the classes that he has, face-to-face and online. He's in an 8:30 p.m. exam online with 500 other students.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's different. Weber brings a totally different perspective, I think, to education, and having those personal connections are just, for me, so important. And again, I don't think our students are going to realize a lot of that until they are older, until they are out into the world and they said, wow, I was able to go back. And even now I say to my students, you made a comment before that you have businesses, and I tell my students, listen, if you ever want to open a business, don't pay for it. Find me, call me, and we can walk through it, and it takes 15 to 20 minutes, because I've helped a couple students here start their businesses. And so you always have that connection, no matter where you are. You always can find me.
It's funny that you say those connections, because I will go back to, I'm going to date myself now. When I started here in 1991, my father's players, that's one thing they touted, was their relationships they built with the professors on the campus that allowed them to grow, that came to the events, that really took an interest in their growth as students, as humans, and as athletes. Mm-hmm. And you talked about as a parent of a college-age child who's kind of gone a different route, but she's also in a much bigger city now. She's in Ocala, just south of Gainesville, so, I understand that. And there's nothing wrong with being a Florida Gator. Whether you hate them or like them, there's nothing wrong. Great education, so congratulations to him and that program. Mm-hmm. But that being said, on the college side, you also have a son that's here.
I do.
And how does that feel as being the soccer mom?
Yeah. So before my son came here, I was the soccer mom. I was kind of the soccer mom, the basketball mom, the baseball mom, the golf mom, the softball mom, the everything mom, because I get the importance of athletics for our students. And I think it's really important for us to realize that we do have student athletes, and that is connected. And I tell them all the time, you get to see me in my arena, you get to see me on my soccer field, you get to see me on my baseball field, you get to see me on my field in the classroom. So I do make a point to go and watch our kids and participate in their sports, of course, when I can. And my husband, bless his soul, I've taken him to a soccer game in the morning. We've driven an hour to a football game, and then we've come back to a volleyball game in the evening. We've done some crazy things. But in the beginning, when I first started doing that, I would say to the students, I saw you at the game today. And they'd be like, oh, you did? And then they'd say to me, oh, I saw you at the game. And then it was, why weren't you at the game?
Oh.
So those students realize when you're there, and they realize that just a little bit of effort on our part and my part as a faculty member, they get to see me on my field, I want to get to see them on their field, because that's a big part of their lives. So to be able to support that is very important for me, and I would want someone to do that for my child. And yeah, that's what it is. And yes, I do have a son here. I didn't tell anyone I had a son here because I think it's hard for them to come in. If you are a faculty member, oh, you're Dr. Muniz's son. I didn't want to give him that stigma, although it came across pretty quick when they realized the last name. He was in Spain for 2 years at a soccer academy, and because of COVID, we needed to bring him home. And it was a big upheaval for him that he wasn't expecting, to come back to the States. But Weber's been a great place for him to be able to transition into college ball, to get ready for his future, whatever that may lie. And he's in a great program. He's in the SPF program, and he's learning a lot. So I'm excited for him.
Well, you keep touching on so many things that are very personal to me as well. Coming from someone whose father was at Weber and was Weber for 35 years, yeah, they know when we miss class. They know when we're doing the right things or the wrong things. But I didn't want to come to Weber. But that experience I had with the people in the dorms and on my teams and playing ping pong. I hear that ping pong is, by the way, I am up to challenge anybody in ping pong. I hear the ping pong is big around here, yeah. So look me up, hit me up, and I will go toe to toe. But I think your son will be fine. It is weird because we are so small and so caring that they know, and people know. I'll never forget Dr. Orphandokinus. We all called him Dr. O, although there's a different one now. He would tell my dad, your son is doing this, and I think he's out partying. And of course I would get called into the office, and one thing led to the other. So it's okay. You'll be all right. Keep it up. You talked about, being involved in going to the soccer game and the volleyball game and a football game. And not only are you involved in seeing the athletes, you're also involved you're the advisor for the PBL club, which I have players in the PBL club, and they absolutely adore being in the PBL club. And we're going to hit on some more, but let's explain what PBL is to those that may not know.
Sure. So PBL is the collegiate arm of Future Business Leaders of America from high school. FBLA helps prepare you to get into college, whereas PBL helps to prepare you get into your career. So we do a lot of exciting things, and I know which players you're talking about because they're all my favorites. All of my students are my favorites. But my PBLers, I have a special little place in my heart for them because they go a little bit above and beyond. They are sometimes going outside of their comfort zone. And you kind of touched something before about majors and about people and about doing things. We're all connected, right? So it doesn't matter if you're an accounting major. It doesn't matter if you're a marketing major. We're all connected in business. So you have to know a little bit about accounting, and you have to know a little bit about marketing, a little bit about management. And PBL allows you to put all that together. Joyce was one of our past PBLers who did extraordinarily well. We went to nationals 2 years ago to San Antonio and had a fantastic time. And it's about the connections and the experiences that you have. So I'm very fortunate to be able to be one of the PBL co-advisors.
My brother was a PBL member and was very excited when they qualified for nationals the couple times while he was here. I didn't get to, I don't think PBL was really big when I was here, or I wasn't involved. I'm not sure. But that leads me to a quote, and there's actually a backside of this quote, but I didn't write it down because I wanted to hit on this. It's from Warren Buffett. He talks about accounting is the language of business. And there's a backside to that is if you don't understand a business, then you shouldn't invest in it. You just talked about how all of these pieces are intertwined, and if you don't know marketing, you better find someone who does. If you don't know accounting, you better find someone. And I think it is important for the marketer to understand the basics of accounting. When you're professing in the classroom, how do you intertwine those in?
We do. Well, first I tell my students this isn't math. They get very nervous. I'm like, if you can add 2 + 2, you're good, right? But the one thing, and I tell them all, no matter where you come from, what country, what state, what city, whatever, the one thing that connects us is money. And that is what runs the world. And you have to be able to understand something about it. I tell them you're not going to come out of here being, by any means, an expert at it. But I do want you to be able to have, I call it a semi-intelligent conversation about it. I don't know a lot about tennis, I tell them, right? But I can have a semi-intelligent conversation about it. I just learned what a libero was last year for volleyball. Had no clue. but I can have a semi-intelligent conversation about it. My mantra is for my students, I want you to walk out smarter than what you were when you walked in. And if you can walk out saying you gathered bits and pieces of it, again, you're not going to be an expert, but if you put forth the effort, you're going to come out smarter than what you were coming in. And Warren Buffett is very, very good. I might just have to steal that from you and from him and figure out a way to put it in my office, because it is very true.
Yeah, I love finding quotes kind of relating to the people that we're interviewing, and obviously you can't go wrong with Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, sure.
It's funny, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and lo and behold, Warren Buffett bought a business. We all understand business, and that's a business school. He bought a furniture company out west because they're not actually a furniture company. It's where people go to get their credit. And they bought the company to put into their portfolio because business is business. And so why not? What is one of your, it's a two-part question, maybe two different answers, but I'm going to ask it. What is your biggest pet peeve in the classroom, and what is your biggest pet peeve in life, and are they the same?
I don't think they're the same. My biggest pet peeve in the classroom is no hats, no hoodies, or headphones. It drives me crazy when a student comes in with a hat, hoodie, or headphone. And the reason is the first semester I was here, I was teaching, I turned around, and this is what I saw of a student, because he had his hoodie tied like that. And I was like, oh no, this is not going to work. When you go to a meeting, you don't have headphones in, you don't have a hat on. You may if you're in sports or something. It just depends on the location. But you're not going to have a hoodie on. You're not going to come in here where this is all I see. So I make the students take it off. And in the beginning, they're all like, why? And I've had them where I've had one that told me no. And I was like, it's non-negotiable. And he got up to walk out, and he walked out, and he went to his coach, and the next class he came in without it on. So,
I love it.
And that's another thing, the support that we have amongst each other. But so that's my biggest pet peeve in the classroom. In life, I want to say that I don't know if I really have some. Be courteous to one another, I think, is maybe one of my pet peeves. If we stop and think of other people first, it comes around to us as well. So I think we don't necessarily think of others as much as we potentially could. This past year must have been a bit rough then, watching the dynamic. It's funny. I saw something. I don't know if it was a podcast, a news. It was actually Sheriff Grady Judd today. He was on 97 WPCV. We're very early. The radio's on. We're not really listening. And he talked about, there's an inauguration today, and some people are going to be happy. Some people are going to be sad. He said the best thing we can do back in the day, we didn't even discuss politics or religion because we got into fights over it, but we spoke to one another and we all were happy. And now we all feel it's our right and privilege to do those things. So now we all argue. Let's go back to asking how you're doing, talking about the kids, and we all have our own views. Let's do that in the voting booth. And I really thought that was a poignant statement that he made. I also ad-libbed it because I couldn't memorize it at 6:30 in the morning. But got another quick quote, and I think I can tell by what you've talked about in our discussion. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Albert Einstein said that. I see in the accounting side of things, you stated, people think it's numbers and it's complicated. Explain what that quote means to you as far as in the classroom and just in general. One of the things I do try to do in the classroom is try to make the information relatable. It can be complicated at times. I tell my students the first day, I'm like, who goes home after they buy a car and says, I bought an asset today? That's not the way we talk, right?
Yes.
But you have an asset. So I am trying to give you a different Webster's dictionary, if you will, on life and trying to make it relatable to you. So I can make it complicated, but why? Let me try to make it as relatable to you and for you so that you can use the information that is necessary for you to succeed. not everything are you going to need at all times. It's just like, I imagine when you're coaching someone, you have some people who are very good at one thing and maybe not so good at another. So you're going to give them the knowledge, but give them the ability to pick what they need to promote themselves forward. And I think that's what, as educators, we do. We provide you with a lot of information, but in a way that you can pick what you need to use to move forward. And maybe you don't necessarily know what you need, and that's also our ability in our job as educators, to open you up to maybe not knowing what you need yet.
Just a few more things. You've had such an illustrious professional career and academic career. You've stretched to get your master's and your doctorate, and to become a professor in an area where you're still not local. You actually have a home, and so you're stretching every day. What's the next stretch that you see yourself doing?
I've gone back and forth on that a lot. Obviously, we're always looking for something, the next chapter. I don't know what my next chapter might be. I'm very, very happy here. I think if you ask my husband, I don't think he's ever seen me as happy other than with my kids. I've had a wonderful career, and everything in my career has allowed me to do something. You know, the 20 years before I came here allowed me to be a mom, which is the most important thing in my life. But I'm very happy here, and I want to see Weber successful. So being a part of their success and being part of their everyday, I think is a good thing for me. And hopefully whatever may happen with Weber, because we're seeing all these wonderful things, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you look at everything, the learning commons, the ping pong tables in the Babson Center, new carpeting. I can't wait to get a new classroom.
Have you gotten your Starbucks yet?
I have not. I was just over there this morning. It's absolutely beautiful. The bookstore is gorgeous. I mean, it's so beautiful. Just the little things, and I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. A lot of little things can be great. You don't have to go to the greatness right away. You can take little steps. So I think as Weber progresses, I want to be a part of that. It's exciting. I think Weber's going to be a part of my life for a long time. I'm hoping it is in various shapes or forms.
And within that, you have the ability. I did not ask the question to see where her next step was. It was, what can you stretch within that? And I kind of feel the same way. You very much remind me of, I spent 10 years at Florida Southern, and there was a professor there who was a top executive at GM, and then he came to teach at Florida Southern, and the relationship he had, because he brought so much experience from the business world into the classroom. And he also didn't put up with anything either, because, well, he was a top executive at GM, and he didn't have to put up with the stuff. So I very much appreciate that. I think it's important for the children, the students, to learn that life does hit you sometimes. How do you deal with it? One of my last questions, and we could go on because I'm really you piqued my interest with a lot of things. But my last question is always the same: what does it mean to be a warrior?
I think to be a warrior, and I'm a new warrior, right? I'm a newbie. I've only been a warrior for a couple of years. I think it's having the drive and the determination to not give up. I think sometimes in life, and I tell my students, you never know where life's going to take you. There are going to be a lot of turns, and there are going to be a lot of those 2 steps back and 1 step forward types of things. I think it's just not giving up. Doing things for the greater good, doing things, and no matter whatever your sport is, whatever your major is, whatever your interests are, looking at the greater good, I think, is going to get you further. And I think being a warrior of never giving up, I think, fits that very well. So doing things for the greater good, and service oriented, and even on a team of doing things for the greater good. I think that's what a warrior to me means.
Well, I'm going to finish up with this. You stated exactly, you never know where life's going to take you. I can tell you, as someone who left college athletics 3.5 years ago, I never thought I was stepping foot back on the Weber campus. I'm so excited to be here and be a part of rebuilding something and to start something new, and also that looking beyond the service of others is something that I feel you can do easily here, because we have students from so many diverse backgrounds, whether they're Americans, there's 50 states, or whether it's someone from an international place that you learn so much cultural diversity as well. I think that's something that is not recognized enough on this tiny campus. And if you just walk around, you go through the gym right now, you're going to find multiple countries, multiple states. And I think that's something that you talk about and you teach to as well. So I want to thank everybody. I could spend an hour with Dr. Muniz. This has been so much fun. Thank you for joining us for episode 13 of the Warrior Pulse podcast. If you're ever on campus, out and about, make sure you stop in and see Dr. Muniz. Or if you're ever at a sporting event, you probably will run into her. So come back and see us, and we'll see you out on the fields.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.